Oh God, I need you to get me out again, God. I'm locked up behind these walls again, God. I got these chains, I'm shackled from my hands to my feet. If you get me out this one more time, God, I promise. Broke into redemption. Yeah. Can't nobody tell me nothing, lost, but now I'm bound. Broke into redemption, yeah. Can't hold me down. Broke into redemption, yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of Broken to Redemption podcast. I am your host, Brandon Scotto. I got my boy Shane going to come in here, talk about his life of addiction, what it was like, how he got started, and why he got sober. Let's go ahead and bring him in. What's up, Shane?
How's it going, Brandon?
Good, you?
Going good, man.
Yeah. How's your day?
It's going good. Just getting it started, yeah.
You say you guys are about to do Thanksgiving dinner or something?
Yeah, we're just starting. We're prepping everything today. I got to finish the turkey prep for today, pretty much let it sit for the night, and then I'll start it early in the morning.
Nice.
Yeah.
So where are you from, Shane?
I'm from Minnesota. I'm born and raised in Brainerd, Minnesota.
Okay. You want to give us a little rundown on your life on how you got into addiction?
Yeah, really. It starts just back when I was young. There was a lot of trauma that happened in and out of my household. And as I got set through older into my juvenile years, about 9 years old, I started smoking. And that really just led to a little bit of a downward spiral into 10 years. By 10, I was already drinking. By 12 years old, I was locked up. I became a ward of the state in Minnesota. They took me from my mom, and they placed me in maximum juvenile facilities all across Minnesota, bounced me around. I worked my way out of those programs by the time I was 15, and they placed me in a juvenile home. And I just wasn't having it. They were talking about adoptions and all this stuff, and I wanted to go home, so I ran. 15 to 18, I was on the run. And in that time, there was a lot of use completely. The first day that I had touched uppers, I was hooked immediately, and I was 15. So 15 to 18, I kept myself out of trouble because I didn't want to go back. I knew what that pertained. So the week I turned 18, I called my PO. My PO said, "I'm releasing you. You've been out of trouble. Everything's good," which was a blessing. 6 months later, I was in jail. I had got my first DWI, and that started a major spiral over a 6-year span where it was legal trouble after legal trouble after legal trouble, 16 gross misdemeanors in 6 years. And yeah, so that's that. I trim trees. So I was all over the United States after natural disaster. And that also it enabled my drug usage completely. It's a hard lifestyle to live, to stay out of that crowd, let's say. A lot of money fueled into it and a lot of fun. That helped me destruct my life. Now, I had my first child when I was 20. And I moved away from Minnesota. I moved to Arkansas to be with my child. While I was down there for a 3-year period. While I was down there, I got addicted to cocaine, and the relationship got tumultuous, and I had to walk away. My mother also got sick at the time too, so I had to come back to Minnesota. A year after I left Arkansas, I got with my wife. The first day I met my wife, I asked her to marry me. She was already in a relationship, whatever. But we wound up a year later dating. And that first year we were together, I was gone all the time or locked up. I was locked up for 6 months. My son was born, and 24 hours after my son was born, I was placed in jail. They came to the hospital and arrested me for a warrant. And that began kind of like, that was the beginning of a big downward spiral because I got involved in a CPS case. My brother-in-law alleged a lot of stuff against me that wasn't true, it wasn't facts. And they took my kids because of my criminal past before I ever had children. They said I was a dangerous individual because of my criminal history. So that entailed me to dig deeper into addiction. Over the process of the last 13 years, 15, I should say, but 13 since they took my kids, I've had three children and 4 taken. One was my stepchild. And every time, every case brought in more addiction. Every time, it's just harder. To get out of that, finally, in 2024, we had just lost our last kid in 2021. I went through a big span, a huge relapse after 5 years of sobriety. When they took my last child, my wife participated in that addiction after all these years of she never was an addict. They took this last child from us. My wife dove into it. And I enabled that. My addictions enabled her addictions. And I seen a destructive pattern that was not only going to destroy me, but it was going to destroy my marriage. It was just not good. So we had gotten into a program, an MAT program, and I was still using. And I decided one day when we went to dose that enough was enough. And I walked into my counselor's office and I demanded to go to treatment. My wife walked in and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm saving your life." And yes, I was saving mine, but I was watching what this was doing to my wife, and it was destroying her. And I was enabling that. So I checked myself into a treatment center 300 miles away from our home. My wife was already in the MAT program. I said, if I remove myself from the situation and get myself clean, that will save my wife's life. So I did. I checked into East Grand Forks, and I was there 20 days. And they re-administered me on a medication, and I started having heart complications. And I was telling them, and they're like, "Well, unless an emergency happens, we're not gonna do anything." So I checked myself out because I was up in the boonies. A month later, I had a widowmaker heart attack. April 22nd, 2024. I flatlined 4 times. I went 8 minutes without oxygen. I wound up aspirating into my lungs, and I got double pneumonia while I was in my coma. I was in a coma for 2 weeks. In that time, every time I flatlined, I had an out-of-body experience. The 4th time I flatlined, I went to heaven. I seen my family members, my loved ones. They approached me, didn't say nothing, turned around, walked away. It freaked me out. So when I came out of my coma, and after I had this heart attack, I realized there's no more use left in this old dog. The fight was about to win, and it will win if I turn around and go back. I don't go to NA. I don't do none of that. I keep it faithful with my Lord. He's protecting me and guiding me now. I am still going through all the mental effects because the 5 years of sobriety that I had, I don't remember. The heart attack, the 8 minutes without oxygen, blocked that out. I also got hit in the head with a baseball bat when I was 18, and I was in a coma then. So I have traumatic brain injuries, and a lot of stuff I don't remember. What I've told you is bits that I can remember. And that is, I know there's not another day left of use. If I do, I know my heart's not going to keep up. I got stage 2 heart failure. And my 10% of my heart isn't viable, which means it doesn't pump with the rest of my heart. There's not another day left in this old dog. So I just know I have to be sober day to day and live the best life that I can today. I'm fighting like hell to get back into the workforce because I was a working guy my whole life. My doctors are saying I can go back to work, but I can't go back to work. So it's a conflicting thing. So yeah, that's kind of where we are today. I know there's not another day left. So when times get tough now, I don't even think about using. It's not a thought in my mind because I passed away and I was lucky enough to come back. Not a lot of people are.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you started smoking weed and cigarettes at 9?
Yeah. My mom left my dad, and then my grandma passed away, and then there was some stuff that happened in house with some men in my, when I was little, that I can't control. So that trauma built up, and I just it was in my household, so I picked it up and started using it.
And then you were locked up at the age of 12?
Yeah, between 9 and 12, I had done some stupid little stuff. Stole some John Deere keys from a John Deere dealership, a master key, and I was playing with some gators and bobcats in the parking lot. Never like tried taking off them, but I'd move them around and stuff. My dad had a tree service, so I knew how to drive this stuff, and I just and then I broke into a tobacco company, kicked in a door, and we didn't steal anything. By the time we got in, the cops surrounded the place, so I got charged with that, and then broke into a school and vandalized it, and I took full blame for it out of like 12 people, and I was like 10 when that happened. Well, then 10 days before my 12th birthday, I was under the influence of some hallucinogenics, and I committed an assault on somebody, and they said my mom couldn't control me no more, and I was deemed a threat to public safety. So I became a ward of the state, and then they transferred me around from maximum facility to maximum facility, and I had to work my way out of that. It took 3 years.
So how did living in maximum security juvenile facilities affect your identity?
I'm going to tell you, it masked me from any punishment later on in life. I was numb. I was literally in maximum secure facilities that adults get thrown into, with doors and cell doors and little peepholes and feed slots. I mean, like what you go into in a holding cell in jail now, or your jail cell. That's what I was in at. I started going there when I was about 10 years old for them petty crimes. That's just where they started sending me. And it was at the state hospital. So, I mean, it made me numb, and it made me a prick. I didn't care. Feelings don't, like, for the longest time, I didn't care about your feelings. I didn't care about mine, and that's not the normal mentality. Normally, like, the inmate mentality is respect yourself and everybody around you. But I felt like nobody cared about me. So why should I care about you? And that was my main mindset for 36 years. And it made I hated law enforcement. I hated judges. I hated probation officers. I don't use that word lightly when I say hate. It made me a product of the system. I will say that.
So you mentioned that you were on the run when you were a child?
Yeah. 15 to 18, after I worked my way out of the juvenile facilities, I decided, they started talking about adopting me into a Native American group home in the northern part of Minnesota. And I said no. They were talking real bad in my ear about how my mom didn't love me and all this stuff, and it wasn't correct. I knew opposite. I knew it. My mom raised me. I was an only child. My brother moved away when I was like 3 because of in-stealth house. I had a half brother and a half sister. They were never a part of my life. I didn't even know them. My little brother, he passed away in 2010, and I knew him for a brief, short moment. And bless his soul, he was a beautiful, beautiful kid. He didn't deserve. I should be where he is today. I'll tell you that. He didn't deserve it. So, like, I was an only child. And so what they were telling me, I knew it wasn't right. I knew how much my mom loved me. I knew how much my family loved me. And they weren't telling me that. So I ran away. I worked up enough trust in this group home, started calling them mom and dad. Worked up enough trust to where I could sneak out, and I ran, and I went back to my hometown, but I changed. I got false identity and changed all my credentials to where I was over the age of 18. And anytime I did wind up having any contact, I had proof that I wasn't Shane. And they would tell me, we know you are, and I'd give them that ID. So, but I ran until I was 18, until I called my PO the week before I turned 18. And he's like, well, you haven't been in trouble. You've been good for 3 years. And we didn't adjudicate you we didn't emancipate you. you just became a ward of the state, so we're releasing you out from juvenile probation. And all my accountability and anything like that went out the window because I was Shane again. It was weird. Young, institutionalized. I don't know what to say.
So at 15, you tried meth?
Yeah, my dad came and got me. He's the one that came and picked me up from the juvenile facility and hid me. And the day he came and got me, he introduced me to a meth pipe, and I fell in love with it immediately. It was, yeah.
So what pulled you in? The feeling?
Yeah, that euphoric rush and sense of just everything was okay at that moment. And I chased that for 20 years. 23 years I chased that feeling, and I never got it back.
Right.
So yeah, that pulled me in. And I'll be honest, I went through the DARE program, and that intrigued me so much. It just watched the stuff they brought into the classroom and everything. Like, I don't know, it pulled me in. It didn't stir me away, I'll tell you that. I learned how to roll a joint. I learned how to do certain things in DARE that intrigued me. And yeah, it didn't scare me.
I wonder, because I went to DARE too when I was a kid, and same thing, it intrigued me, right? So like, I wonder what's the percentage of people that went through that program and actually went through addiction, because it was supposed to be to prevent it, but how many other children it opened their eyes to wanting to try it? I don't even know if they have it anymore, to be honest.
They restarted the program. I actually just watched a thing on it. There was you can look it up on YouTube yourself, but yeah, there's stuff, they knew it wasn't working. They knew that it was harmful towards us as children, and they still pushed it. There was testing saying it was harmful. So yeah, you're right down. Yeah.
So when you moved to Arkansas, what were you trying to escape?
Nothing, honestly. I was with my first daughter's mother for 5 years already. Like, well, yeah, about 5 years. I got with her when I was just right before I turned 16. So about 4 years I was with her already. And before she left Minnesota, she wound up pregnant, and she ended up moving down there because her family moved down there. And she's 2 years younger than me, so she had to go. Like, at this time, she was just about 18. So her family said, "You can't stay. You got to move with us." And they open invitation, Shane. If you want to come down to Arkansas and be a part of your child's life, absolutely. So the door was open, and I said, absolutely. I took it, and I went down there. But there was certain expectations put on me when I got there by my daughter's my daughter's family, that were unrealistic. I wasn't my ex's dad, and that's who they wanted me to be, really, and it just caused a lot of friction and problems. And it was going to end up very bad if I stayed in Arkansas. And like I said, just at this, I was in college and everything. That was okay. But when my mom got sick, that was enough for me to say, all right, this ain't good for me here. Mom's sick. I need to go home. And that's what I did. That was the first hardest decision I ever had to make in my life, was walking back to Minnesota and leaving my daughter down there with her mother. But I mean, she's been raised beautifully. She has a very good life. And I'm proud of that. I'm very happy the man that raised my daughter today. He's done a beautiful job. I'm not a part of my daughter's life. Her mother made it that way. And I accept that today. The man that raised her he's done a very good job and raised a very beautiful young lady.
So what led you back to Minnesota in 2010? What changed or didn't change when you returned?
Well, that's what happened in 2010 when I came back. I ended up coming back because all that unfolded and my mom got sick. And when I moved up here, it just, my drug of choice down there, cocaine, wasn't available up here in Minnesota. And if it is, it's baking soda. So it's not good. And I never looked back at it. I walked away from it when I walked away from everything down there. But then I continued to fuel everything, like my pain, and with all that, I continued to fuel it up with using meth and drinking and taking opiates and just going down the line. And like my wife knew who she was marrying or dating when she started dating me. I was friends with her brother for 5-6 years before, I was even introduced to her. So it was kind of weird, but it's the way it worked out. I'm glad it did.
So how did meeting your wife in 2011 impact your life during such a chaotic time?
She saved my life in a big way. She seen the pain I was going through when I came back from Arkansas. And she pulled me out of an alcoholic fueled addiction. She brought me out of some really dark places. She changed my life in that aspect. She brought more love. Like I hadn't felt this unconditional love even from my daughter's mom, other than feeling it from my grandmother or my mother. So it was a good feeling again to have back in my life. I mean, I felt that love for my daughter when I was in Arkansas, but I didn't feel that love in return because, she was so young. But, so as my wife replaced that void that I needed, that brought kindness and love and joy back to my life.
And in 2012, you became a father again?
I had my first child in 2007, and then in 2012 I had my first son, Lauren, and I was going through some, I don't know, a disorderly conduct charge or something, and fighting probation on that, or going through my probation on that, and fighting it, to be honest with you. And I wound up having to execute a sentence. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it was my second DWI. I had to execute my sentence to be done with it. I was having my son, trying to start over a new life, was preparing to marry my wife. And when they came and arrested me 24 hours after he was born, I was okay with executing that sentence because I wanted to start this life over. I wanted a new start. Well, that didn't happen. CPS was brought into it right at that moment while I was in jail. My brother-in-law alleged some outlandish stuff that wasn't proven because it wasn't true. It was absolutely false. But since they couldn't get me on those charges, they used my criminal past, which was 16 misdemeanors in 6 years, gross misdemeanors. Every 4 is a felony point. So they said I was an unsafe person to be around. And then because my wife married me a month after I got out of jail, they said she would fail to keep the children safe if anything were ever to happen, if I were to flip out. And they distinguished her rights too. They stripped her. So that was the first CPS case with my wife. That it took 22 months for them to finally get it, bring this case together enough to fight. They won, and I will say I didn't take it as a lesson learned and change my life. Then I went in the downward spiral. I went harder into opiates and all that. Still not using heroin, but then a couple of years later, when we had our first child, that's when that came about.
You told me that you lost your kids in 2013.
That's when I lost my two sons. That's okay. When we lost them. And then we had another child in 2015. And because that case was it was within 3 years of the first case being lost, they automatically took the children. Or the child. So there was no fighting a case in that matter. They took the child, they put a hold on it 72 hours after she was born at the hospital and filed for permanency right out the gate. There was no working our way back into being parents or anything at that point.
So what happened emotionally or mentally when that happened?
I still hadn't. It was a drug and alcohol induced process that brought me out of the first case and losing the first two kids, and then that happened. So there was like no recovery even from the first case yet. I haven't even started. Like it's grief, and I hadn't allowed myself to grieve. So then we lost the third child, and I went to treatment because of my problems before this first child, and I wound up going to treatment, and I was introduced to heroin in treatment just by people talking about it, and the intoxication, the way that they would speak about it intrigued me even more. I went in just to kill an opioid addict, a meth addict, and graduated to be a heroin addict when I came out of treatment. And that's how I processed losing the second case for a year. In 2016, I committed my first felony. I was drunk, 4th of July, and somebody said something about my mom that was out of pocket, and I snapped, pulled a knife, and got charged with second-degree assault and terroristic threat. And I pled it out just so I could get out of jail, because they were telling me I was going to sit in jail for up to 9 months until my trial or speedy trial came up. So I pled it out straight down to a felony. And I was on probation for 5 years. That sentence over my head. And I walked out of that sober. That's the 5 years of sobriety that I had, the first 2016 to 2021. And that's when we had our third child.
So what changed inside you in 2016 that helped you get sober?
I was sick and tired of being sick, and I was sick of being in a jail cell. When I went to jail for that felony, I reflected back on the years I had spent as a juvenile locked up, and just the brief moments in between there. I got sick of counting the bricks on the walls. I got sick of the food. I got sick of the treatment from the jailers. I got sick of being in that environment, and I said, I'm not going to prison. I'm not going to prison. So I accepted the plea deal, and I did everything I had to do for 5 years. I walked every line, jumped through every hoop. I did everything they wanted to do. And my wife has told me that at that time we felt like, it's a big blur right now in my life. I don't remember. But she has told me that I felt comfortable enough that we could have another child because 5 years of sobriety pulled our lives together. Let's go ahead and have this child, because there was a possibility we could have this child because we put our lives back together, and that's what the courts wanted. And yeah.
So how did you maintain the 5 years of sobriety, and what were the biggest challenges you came across?
I don't know. I'm processing that right now. My wife's helping me get through that.
Okay.
That's one of my biggest. I'm 21 months sober today, and it's all a brand new process.
Okay.
I don't know how I dealt with that trauma. I can't figure that out. So this is all. It's like starting over on a journey that I've done, but I can't tell you how I went through that 5 years and dealt with everything and what the changes were and all that. I can't tell you that. I don't know.
And then you guys had another kid, you said?
Yes. We ended up having another child in 2021. We were granted our temporary parental rights back. We were doing supervised visits here in the town we live in now. I don't live in Brainerd no more, but I'm still in Minnesota. But we were doing supervised visits here, and everything was going great. They told us that they have absolutely no concerns. They were recommending unsupervised visits because there was no more need for what they seen, and that was their professional recommendation. That's where it was about to turn to. I didn't see the blind side coming. My social worker called me one day and said, Shane, we're moving your daughter to your cousin's house 100 miles north of you. And I said, what do you mean? She said she has her foster care license and she's willing to foster your daughter. And I didn't agree with that because I'm not going to expose anything. I just didn't agree with that. And there's reasons, legitimate reasons behind it. And what was happening was they were saying, let's test him. He has 5 years of sobriety. He completed his felony probation without being violated. He did put his life back together, but let's test Shane. Let's see what's going to happen when times get hard. I didn't see that then. I do now. I just realized this about 3 months ago. They were testing me to see what I would do when times got hard. They moved my child. I seen they were taking my child from me. I seen this was their out to get my kid from me because I had been granted my rights back. And I worked so damn hard to get where I was. And we did everything and we're passing with flying colors. And they moved my child. So as I seen them, they're taking her. And I relapsed. And my wife participated in that relapse. And that was her first exposure to hard drugs. And as soon as that happened, a week later, we had a court hearing and they said, Shane, if anything happens, we need to know so we can set you up for reunification. We need to know so you can be reunified. And I said, all right. And a week after that court hearing, I called my social worker and said, I need to tell you something. Come over. And she's like, good, I need to talk to you too. And she came over and I told her what I had to tell her. And she's like, well, I'm glad you told me because we got reports that you have been using and I needed to discuss that with you. And I found out somebody I was buying from got caught and she knew of 3 people she was selling to that had CPS cases. And she snitched on those 3 people. And it got back into my CPS case, all of her paperwork, because it went from my lawyer gave it to me. And I was like, well, thank God, I wiped my head kind of, I was like, I came forward before you could nail this to me. And she's like, well, here's the thing, Shane, we lost a child 3 weeks ago, a 3-year-old that got into their parents' stash of fentanyl. She said, so since this specifically has to do with that, we are not giving any chances right now. If you would have relapsed on any other form of chemical, we could have had a different discussion. But because it is this particular drug, we are filing for permanency. A month later, they filed for permanency. A month after that, they took her, they stripped her, gone. No, let's work through this. Let's get better. Like they coached me up. None of that. Done. Gone. And she went to my cousin's. My cousin has her now. My cousin made all these promises. She made promises to me. She claims she wrote an affidavit to the judge saying if we got our lives together, we could be a part of my daughter's life every single day that we were possibly allowed to. And she hasn't followed through with them. I've been sober 21 months now. And so that's something I'm dealing with. Sobriety isn't easy. It's not supposed to be, so it's working through that. And that's what I'm still doing. And if I had the tools from 5 years of sobriety and I could use them, I would, but I don't. And I don't trust going to any therapist because the 3 therapy companies in the town I live in now have helped take my kids from me. So I am not, wanting to go do that.
So what finally made you say I'm done on March 1st, 2024?
I was watching how it was completely destroying my life. And at that time, honestly, in my life, I still had more time to go. I felt but I was watching what it was doing to my wife, honestly, and I contributed to that. I enabled that. I had to save her life. And if that entailed me walking away from the life I knew, I was willing to do that because she stuck with me. She's with me. She knew the truth the entire time, which is what has been said. And she wasn't going to walk away from me because these people wanted her to walk away from me. Like she stuck her neck out there for me. And I entailed return the favor by turning her into a drug addict? No, I had to do something to change that before I unalived. I had to. Otherwise, I don't know if she would have. So I think I checked in. I checked in. And did I have intentions on staying clean after I checked out 20 days later? Absolutely, I did. I was done because I seen how it had destroyed my life, my wife's life, my children. I mean, my children, don't get me wrong, there's contact. They're all closed adoptions, but there's, other than my cousin, there's contact with the other three. And they have beautiful lives. They ended up with beautiful people, good Christian, faithful people, really good, beautiful people. So I can't be mad at that. They have more opportunity than I could ever give them. But I have to do something to change what's going on in my household today. And that's why I did it. That's what made me check in. And then when I had my heart attack, I knew it. I knew for sure that I was done. I knew because I died. I died. Like, they put the Lucas device on me in my living room. Like, and I'm going to tell you what saved my life. And drugs had nothing to do with my heart attack whatsoever. What saved my life was Narcan. There was a rookie on the force that had been on the force for like 2 months. And my heart stopped while he was like checking my pulse. And he grabbed his Narcan out and he boosted me with Narcan, and it started my heart enough that they put the Lucas device on me. And if that officer wouldn't have done that, there's a big possibility my heart went to regain. They gave the officers, there's 4 officers that participated in saving my life and did everything they could that day. And they were given a life-saving award for that heroic action. And I'm proud of that. It changed my whole perspective on law enforcement, on military, on all of that. I used to be somebody that did not like police. I'm not that way no more. There's a cop. They all went all the way from a cop being on the force that was 20 years on the force, part of the SWAT team, part of the task force that was just working patrol that day, all the way down to a rookie that had only worked 2 months. And these 4 officers saved my life. And it's the most beautiful thing that I can think that's ever happened to me. And to be honored enough for them to receive a life-saving award, like, that was cool. They saved my life.
So you said you went to heaven. What did you experience spiritually?
Well, first I had 3 out-of-body experiences. Every time I flatlined in my living room, I watched them work on me, trying to give me CPR. And then in the ambulance, I was watching them. I got defibrillated 4 times. One of the times I defibrillated. And then I woke up on the operating table, and I remember waking up on the operating table and the doctor saying, "Why is he awake? He has enough anesthesia in him. He shouldn't be awake." And the nurse was saying, "Shane, you need to stop. You got a camera in your heart. You're going to die." And when I flatlined after that, and they had to shock me again, and I went to heaven. It was the most beautiful, peaceful feeling. And it was the most beautiful, intense, peaceful, biggest piece of serenity I ever had in my life. And that was better feeling than any drug I had ever done in my life. I'll tell you that. And then when I seen, and it wasn't just my family members, it was every person I had ever truly desiredly loved that had passed away was standing before me. And when they didn't say nothing and they just turned around and dissipated back into the heavens, that was my belief in them telling me it's not my time and to do better. But it scared me because I had been a heathen. I had thrown the Lord's name in shame my entire life. And I didn't deserve what was being placed before me. And that scared me even more when I woke up. And my wife said that was the first thing that I told her when I woke up was I went to heaven. I seen my loved ones. And it scared me. And then, I'm going to be honest, I started listening to podcasts of certain individuals. And it made me believe what happened to me wasn't just an alternate reality. It wasn't some dream because I was in a 2-week coma. It really happened to me. And I'm blessed that it did. And I'm blessed to be back where I am today. And I don't read the Bible because I don't understand it. I can't spread the word that way. But I can do my due diligence and tell you heaven is real. And I've been there. And I didn't deserve to be there. And I went there anyways. And I desire to get back there. So I do my best to be the best Christian I can be today for that fact. And yeah, it was enough for me to say I'm done living the life I wasn't having thoughts about going back, like I said, because I was sober 2 months by the time I had my heart attack. But it made me think enough that I never want to go back to that life, because I want what was the glimpse of what I had, that brief moment. I want that back.
So how does your life compare now to the person you used to be?
I'm not going to say I'm ashamed of the things I did in my life. The person I was a prick. I was insensitive. I was judgmental. I was a narcissistic piece of shit. Pardon my French. I was. I still have them tendencies at times. I'm human. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but I've changed my ways. My moral character was destroyed by the way I was not only treating others, but treating myself in that matter. If I can't love myself, I can't love anybody else. And I've started to learn how to love myself. Something I never gave myself a chance to do before. Never cared to. I didn't believe in any of that. It opened my eyes. My heart attack changed. My wife told me the day that, because it happened at 7:00 at night. My wife went to work and I woke up from a nap. 20 minutes later, I had flatlined. And when I woke up from my nap, my heart was acting up, and I knew something. I was sat on the phone for 20 minutes with 911, and they kept telling me I was too young to have a heart attack, and that I was going to be okay. But I know that this is the life that I desire to live. I strive to be a better person. I still make mistakes. I don't want to be who I ever was before. I'm not going to let that define who I am today. It was a pathway to where I am today. It's not my big picture. It is just a brief moment. I mean, it was a big portion of my life, but it's just a brief moment. I still got the rest of my life to live, and I can change what I did then by being a better me now. I say that like, I don't have, people are always going to look at me because, like I said, I was a jerk. And that's okay. They have a right to. I mistreated a lot of people in my life. And I'm not going to hate them if they have certain things to say about me, as long as they're factual. I'm not going to hate them for that.
So what message do you want someone who is currently where you were once to hear?
It's worth it. It's not going to be easy, but it's worth it. And every pathway is different. You know, I've never walked in your shoes, but I've walked on your path. And I know it's possible. I believe for 23 years it wasn't. I just thought it was going to be the way it was until I no longer existed. And you can do it. We do recover. And recover out loud. It's not something to be ashamed of. This is a battle-tested moment in your life that you can win. I promise. No matter what anybody tells you, you can, and you will succeed if you put your mind to it. Don't ever let somebody tell you you ain't worth it, and don't ever let somebody tell you you ain't gonna be somebody, because you are somebody. I promise. You can do it. We do recover. Absolutely.
So if you could speak to your 9-year-old self, what would you tell him?
there's nothing I could tell myself that wasn't already told to me. Buck up, little man. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Pull your britches up and be a man when it's time to be a man, and be a child when it's time to be a child. Let yourself live and grow. Don't grow up too fast, because you don't get that time back. It's precious. Right. And any parent out there that is struggling and going through it, your child is worth it. You are worth it. And don't let the system paint you to be the monster they want you to be so they can take your child from you. You can recover, I promise. And your children will thank you for it. Don't make the mistakes I made in life, because they're not worth it. The little bit of fun and excitement you get out of the lifetime of pain that you got to deal with. Those are decisions you never want to make wrong in your life, because they haunt you.
What's a legacy you hope to leave for your kids, family, and community?
As long as I can, I want to start a business. There's really, I want to leave everything I can for my children that I had nothing for me. I had unconditional love, but when it came down to everything else, I didn't have that. I want to leave them something. I want to leave them a chunk of land that's theirs. I want to leave them a business they can inherit. I want to leave them a legacy of parents that they can say, my parents went through hell and they came back. They are a success. And that's what I 2 years ago, I didn't have nothing to offer my children. A year ago, I didn't have nothing to offer my children. Today, at least I have a roof to offer if they ever want to come home. I love them, and I just want them to know that their parents love them. And we did do everything after the fact, but we love you. And we're always here, and we understand if you're mad.
So what's next for your story now that you're living for purpose, living in purpose?
I have been being told that I'm a statistic, one, because of the addiction, but then the type of heart attack I had was a widowmaker heart attack. I had 100% blockage in my LED. The rebound that I've made, I went from 20% heart functioning back up to 50 to 55 now. I'm defying odds. I'm trying to get the stage 2 part lifted, but they said it never will be because that 10% of my heart's not viable. I want people to know that you can bounce back from these situations, whether it's physical, mental. I want people to know that it's possible. You can defy those statistics and odds, and I want to be living testimony to that. I'm not supposed to be where I am today just because I was an addict, you know, and then I defied that, and then I had this massive heart attack, and I was in a coma, and all that. I passed away. You know, I went through all this, and they told my wife there was a 6.3% chance that she wouldn't have to wipe my butt for the rest of her life. And I'm walking on 2 feet today, feeding myself, and I'm doing what I can to be a better person and to give back my story so people know that it's possible. No matter how much adversity you go through, you can do it. It's possible.
Amen. Do you have any questions for me?
And what inspired you to do what you're doing today, to give people like me and my fellow community the platform to share our story?
So initially when I started my Broken to Redemption thing, it was motivational speaking for like people in recovery or people in rehab. Even wanted to reach like kids on the right path, to letting them know that like all it takes is one bad decision and your life could be thrown away. I work a full-time job, so I'm not always able to make it to go speak at those places. And I wanted to do something else. And me and my wife were in Palm Springs on a little vacation, and we're laying by the pool, and something came in my head. It said podcast. And I was like, I don't know anything about these, but let's roll with it. God's telling me to go with this. So here I am now.
That's awesome. What advice would you give to somebody like me that wants to do public speaking? Because it's something I want to get into. I want I want my voice to get louder. So what advice would you give to somebody like me?
So when I got into it, it was kind of like a spare of the moment thing, right? There was no fear. There was no like, there was nothing of that nature, right? You just gotta jump in, man. And like it's gonna be awkward at first, right? Sometimes you're gonna get tongue tied, and you're gonna feel that you're not captivating the audience, but it's like you will get better as time goes on with it, right? Or you could be really good right from the get go. Like you never know until you take that leap of faith, right? And that's what I did with everything that I'm doing with Broken to Redemption, is just a leap of faith. And like if it's meant to be, if it's in God's will, God will provide and he will make it okay. So it's just that leap of faith, like the confidence that you're gonna do it, right? Because at the end of the day, if you reach one person and you save that one person's life, right, you just made it worth it. Right? You don't got to save 500 people, right? If one person says, "Oh, what this dude said changed my heart and I want to change my ways," then it's totally worth it.
Absolutely.
Totally worth it.
All right. Right on, man. Well, I want to thank you, Brandon, for bringing me up.
Of course.
Since I actually got involved with TikTok, you were one of the first people that reached out to me, like literally. I want to thank you for that.
Of course.
And again, man, I hope the best for you.
Thank you. You too, man.
Absolutely, brother.
I'll do follow-ups next year, like maybe June or something.
All
see where everybody's at.
All right.
All right, brother. Have a good day.
Yes, sir. You too. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.